Hey, all you groovy developers out there. Welcome to .NET Rocks, the internet audio talk show for .NET developers. I'm Carl Franklin here in New London, Connecticut, and my partner in crime in Atlanta, Georgia, Mark Dunn. How are you, Mark?
Hi there, Carl. How are you doing this evening?
All right. Well, we don't even know when this one's going to get aired. We got a little bit behind in our recording and our scheduling on the website, but so I don't even want to attempt the news of the week for fear that we might be talking about something that's completely wrong by the time it airs. So how have you been?
Hey, man, I've been doing great. Going down to scenic Montgomery, Alabama to spend some time with family.
Got a big family down there?
Yeah, you bet. That's my wife's family.
I used to work with this guy in California who's a brilliant dude. Just probably one of my top 10 smart people in the world that I know. Name is Trent, and he's from Houston, Texas. And he told us all sorts of stories about how, he has a huge family. And after Thanksgiving dinner, they'd all sit around, with his brothers, and somebody would say, "You done eating?" He'd say, "Yep." Brother would say, "Want to fight?" Just goes, the difference, around my family, we would watch the football game and play pitch. That was what we would do. But, want to fight?
Well, that's close to Thanksgiving with my family. My brother is a retired politician.
Mm-hmm.
He's been a Democrat his entire career. And, of course, I was a member of Young Republicans in high school.
Right.
So, our dinners always circle around political issues. And I'm 180 degrees most of the time from the rest of my family.
Somebody usually ended up getting hit, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, peas are thrown across the table.
We're still paying for John Kennedy's death. Texas is still paying for John Kennedy's death. Well, anyway.
Sam Kinison used to do a routine about Willie Nelson and how the whole tax issue that Willie went through was just a misunderstanding.
Really?
Willie used to throw a big party in Texas every year.
Uh-huh.
And he said that Willie had misunderstood, that he didn't have to pay taxes. He had to pay Texas.
It's just one letter.
Yeah.
It's a little, have to be a little myopic to get that one confused. Well, anyway, I just got some stuff in the mail from thenerds.net. I don't know if you've ever been to their website, but
I'm a big fan. I order stuff from them.
Invariably, when I do a search on streetprices.com for some sort of gear, I invariably end up at thenerds.net. They just have really good prices, and they're fantastic. So anyway, I went iPack accessory crazy this week. I got a foldable keyboard, a 256 megabyte storage card, and let's see, a cigarette lighter power adapter.
Right.
And one of those extra long life battery packs with the dual expansion pack.
Did you get the CF card or the PCI card?
The CF card expansion pack. Yeah. So I'm styling. I already have the other kind. So we're gonna see. I'm gonna take it out in the woods and write a book.
There you go.
Oh, that will be the true test.
Carl in his natural habitat.
Yeah, right. Yes. So it's interesting. You have an iPack too, don't you?
Yeah, I do. I've got a 3970.
Yeah, that's one I have too with Bluetooth. Not quite the state of the art. The new ones are coming out. I guess it's state of the art right now, but the new ones are coming out in a couple weeks.
That's right. The 5000 series. They've got biometric security in them.
Jeez.
And I think it's got a Wi-Fi card built into it in addition to Bluetooth.
So it's got it'll recognize your thumbprint for security.
I don't know if it's a thumbprint. I'm kind of curious about that. Perhaps our guest tonight will know something about it.
Hey, that's a good idea. Why don't we introduce our guest? Interesting, we've been talking about iPacks, and believe me, it's no coincidence. We figure all this stuff out beforehand. We spend hours, don't we, Mark?
That's right. Planning is our top priority.
So our guest tonight comes from Montreal, and he is affectionately known as Active Nick from all the Canadians and Beavers up there. Nickolas Landry, how you doing?
How you doing, guys?
All right, well, we'll talk to you next week.
That was brief. That was short. Thank you very much.
It's been a great show.
Goodbye.
Thank you very much.
No, I'm a big fan of the show. I'm really, really glad to be here. Although I'm a bit disappointed because I think this is the first time that Mark hasn't said, I'm really, really excited about tonight's show.
That's true.
Well, it goes without saying now. I mean, I am truly excited about having you on the show tonight.
No good.
It's too little too late, is that right?
Yeah, I'll just have to bring the excitement to the show this time around. Because I really love this show. I listen to it at work, or I download it to my Pocket PC as well, and I listen to it on the road, or when I work out, for example.
I actually listen to it in my dreams.
Yeah?
Yeah, so I hear.
Well, working out is a good thing, because I know, Carl, there's something about you that just incites me to work out very hard.
Yeah, and let's just not go there, okay? I have what is colloquially known as computer ass. Programmer ass.
So I got to ask you a question, because this is episode, I think, 10 or 11 or something.
Something like that.
In your very, very first episode,
yeah.
you start the show by introducing the show, and then you say that you usually have a co-host. But then I figure, this is episode 1. So how can you say that you usually have a co-host? Is it, in fact, like Star Wars with episode 4 and you have .NET Rocks prequels?
No. Although that's a good joke, and I'm glad you said it, because, the listeners need a laugh. What I meant to say is we will usually have, not we usually have, but we will usually have a co-host.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
Because I was actually looking all over the internet for pirate sites where I could find stuff like the Franklin's Menace or Attack of the Geeks.
Yeah.
Okay, I guess we'll edit that one out.
Yeah, those
you gotta get a cricket sound, Carl.
Yeah. So, reason that we have you on is to talk about mobility.
Yes. Mobility is a very, very exciting topic in .NET because now you finally have a lot of options. It's probably the best offering in terms of mobility development that you can find in .NET.
So before we get into it, why don't you establish your credentials to the listener and tell us about yourself. What's the history of Nick?
As you've stated so eloquently earlier, my name is Nickolas Landry. I'm French-Canadian. I live in Montreal, Canada. And I'm the chief software architect of... Yeah, what, the French part?
No, the moose part.
Oh! I'm the chief software architect of a company called .blocks.
.blocks.
Yeah, .blocks. It's DOTBLOX, .blocks.net. And we offer software services and products for mobility. We build custom solutions for enterprises, and we also have reusable products. And we just live and breathe mobility stuff.
So you don't do anything else but mobility solutions?
It's kind of a yes and a no, because yes, we only do mobility, but what people have to understand is that mobility goes all the way to the back end.
Right.
Because mobility will simply give you a new form of client, whether it's web-based or rich client-based, but on a mobile device.
We're talking presentation tier here.
Exactly. So you still need the business tier, you still need a data tier, and we provide turnkey solutions. So we go all the way to the back end, integrate with other systems within the enterprise, with technologies like BizTalk, for example. So, but we'll focus on business processes that are in need of mobility to become more agile.
And that's a good point, because a lot of people kind of think of these handheld devices as toys, and they don't really consider them to be an integral part of the business process. And that seems to be so Star Trek, so off in the future, so tricorder-ish, that, that we don't even want to go there until it's really robust. So tell us why, what are some of the ways in which you can use these things to save time and money?
Okay, well, you said it right there, save time and money, first of all, because that's the first part of my answer. You need to be able to prove that this device will save you time, will save you money. And that by saving time, this is how you'll save money. Because, for example, it's proven that management-type people that are higher up in the hierarchy are usually very difficult to reach. They're always in meetings. They're always very busy. But they're also key to the company, which means that you cannot simply automate their interventions. They need to take decisions. They need to have information to take informed decisions. So one way that you can reintegrate these people back into a business process is to give them a mobile application that will give them access to this information by notifying them in real time and then accessing mission-critical information and quickly approving or just denying or some request. and then moving forward. So that normally a business process that would have been locked until that person would have become available again.
So what are some scenarios that lend themselves really well to this?
Yeah, that's the angle. In terms of scenarios, there are a lot of scenarios. For example, one big area for us is field service.
Uh-huh.
Field service is whenever you have people working on the field, personnel, often very technical personnel like technicians or mechanics. They're going to repair copiers or trucks or computers or vans or whatever. And you need to manage work orders to dispatch the personnel to the right places, send them notifications that they have a new job on their agenda for the day. Very often these people have to do repairs on the field, so they have to carry around a mobile inventory. So it's a good idea to have a local database that they can just log around with them in a little device, and then they can manage their mobile inventory. They can have devices that have a barcode scanner integrated into them so that as they use parts in their repairs, they can just scan the barcode numbers for those parts. Automatically, they're deduced from the mobile inventory and also from the central inventory. The parts are going to be billed automatically to the client. They log in the hours. Automatically, you can get billing, et cetera, et cetera. You know, that's just one area, the very big one.
What are we talking for?
You can also have field inspections. Also, because very often, for example, on transportation, the same people that have to go out on the road and repair trucks and vans, they also have to perform inspections and surveys of these trucks to make sure that they are compliant with traffic rules or transportation rules or whatever you call them in the States. You have to forgive me, I'm a Canadian, so I don't know anything about the U.S.
Yeah, except where the bars are.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
So what are we talking about to get set up with one of these things? Or, you know, how is it a big expense for a company to invest in some devices? And are they, you know, how cheap can we get them?
Actually, it's not a big expense. You have to see it as an investment.
Right.
And this is how you have to sell technology today, not just mobility, but I would guess especially mobility, since, as you said earlier, mobility sounds too cool to be business-like.
Yeah.
So people think that they're just gadgets. So that's why initially we'll always push for a pilot project and then try to show them this is what you need to get started. We'll push for a project that's going to have maybe just 10 users.
Yeah.
We're going to show them how the process will work, how they can save money into this. And then once we've proven on paper and using really like hard numbers,
yeah, then
they can move on.
If I was a manager, I think I would be a little bit afraid of saying to somebody, hey, you know, go buy some iPack stuff and let's get going with it, you know, for fear that they might download, you know, $100,000 worth of games and toys, and you know what I'm saying? I mean, that kind of,
yeah,
it kind of sounds like, you know, well, why should I let you have all the fun kind of stuff? So,
well, that's the thing. First of all, what we do is we always push for a turnkey solution. So we'll provide them with the software, with the hardware as well. So we resell some hardware, whether it's consumer-oriented devices or more ruggedized devices, because you don't want to give an iPack to a mechanic on the road.
That's a scary thought, Nick.
Yeah, because he'll just destroy, he or she, well, usually it's a he, but he'll just destroy it to pieces, and it's not going to last like 15 minutes, because these people will manipulate the iPack the same way they would, you know, a wrench. So.
Yeah. Well, what do you do for guys like that? You know, a truck driver, if we had an app that he needed to run on an iPack, can you somehow guarantee that they're not going to tear it up, I guess?
Well, you have to give them a device that's going to be called a ruggedized device. And there are companies like partner companies of ours, like Symbol Technologies and Intermec, that have been around for over 20 years, by the way. And these companies have been living in the mobility world forever. It's just that they were using more proprietary technologies, and they were more industrial niches and scenarios that they were focusing on, because you didn't have standards like Wi-Fi, like what you have today, or GPRS or 1X. So these companies have ruggedized pocket PCs, and they're running the same operating system that we love, that you find in the iPack or the Toshibas or the Jornadas. It's all Windows CE based. But this device can actually be dropped from 5 feet high on a concrete floor over 20 times. You can drop it in water, you can sneeze on it, you can just do whatever you want with it, and it won't break.
Yeah, that's an interesting thing, because Mark and I were just talking about these hard drives that you can get. They're PCMCIA card hard drives. They can just plug,
or compact flash as well.
Yeah, okay. So like a 5 gig hard drive or something like that, but you know, that's really got to be ruggedized in order for you to do anything with it. You drop that from 5 feet and it's broken, isn't it?
Yeah, well, the good thing about the flash card is it's solid state. Some of the larger hard drives that are PCI cards, I mean, you literally have little platters that spin around in there.
Yeah, it's a magnetic media. It's the same as a hard drive, so it's got the same flaws as hard drive.
You just came back from a couple of conferences. We saw you at Dev Connections down in Florida, in Orlando.
Yep, Dev Connections is actually a great show. I really love it very much, and it's probably one of the best shows to speak at.
Yeah, it really is. I love it.
It's a load of fun. The speakers are really amazing. The organization is also great because they always set up a quality event. And the cool thing is also they always pick these great locations.
Yeah.
So for attendees, it's like a vacation going there. It's actually
Right.
very hard to convince them to come to sessions because it's so beautiful out there.
It's true. So were you speaking on mobility down there?
Yes, I had a lot of topics, including some on mobility, because I had stuff about .NET in general and asynchronous programming and web services and UDDI. But I also had some sessions on calling web services from mobile devices.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, kind of cool, but also it's one of my, I got a big controversy thing surrounding web services on mobile devices.
So why is that?
It's just that it's the XML part.
Mm-hmm.
XML is all good and fine, but you need a lot of bandwidth for XML.
Okay.
And just like XML was first introduced in 98 in version 1, by the time we got in 98, the internet connectivity was already pretty good. We had broadband. You could get good ISDN or DSL or cable modem connections.
Yeah.
So that was fine because we could absorb the average 10-to-1 ratio of XML over the wire. But the thing is, with wireless connectivity, if you're looking at, for example, 1X or GPRS, not necessarily Wi-Fi, you're surfing at an internet speed that's similar to what we had in 94. And in 94, XML would not have been a viable technology because back then, what was important was performance, not necessarily interoperability. And XML web services are all about XML and web services are all about interoperability and not necessarily performance.
So basically, your average connection on an iPack is going to be 56K, and so, having the overhead of XML is not helping.
Pretty much, because theoretically, if you're using a GPRS connection, you're supposed to go up to 115.
So what's GPRS? I have to be the acronym police here.
Oh, okay, that's true. GPRS is the General Packet Radio Service. It is a wireless technology that allows a device to connect to the internet over, a wireless connectivity.
Oh, Mark, we were talking about that just recently, weren't we?
Yeah, we were.
So GPRS, you had a guy over in Paris that was using it, and you were communicating with him?
Yeah, I was interested in it because I saw on the Compact site where they had a cell phone solution that used GPRS. So I started trying to look into it, looking for forums on the internet. So I finally find one and start talking to a guy about it. He tells me how great it is, but it turns out he lives in France. And from what I could tell, there wasn't a current available solution in the U.S. for GPRS at that point. And the more I looked into it, I found that Ericsson, I guess, has the contract to be the first provider of a GPRS solution.
Well, actually, you do have some providers that have GPRS already over there. I don't know what they cover exactly, but since we were talking about Dev Connections in Orlando, my carrier here is Rogers AT&T in Canada, and my roaming goes through AT&T, of course, in the U.S., and I did have GPRS access when I was in Orlando.
Right, and I think that's okay if you subscribe to it in a different country. I'm not so sure that you can subscribe to it through a U.S. provider yet.
That's bad.
And I could be wrong about that.
Well, maybe. 1X is also being deployed. 1X RTT, I fail to remember exactly what the acronym stands for, but it's another equivalent technology to GPRS, slightly better and slightly faster, but pretty much an equivalent. And I know that other providers, like I think it's Sprint, is deploying 1X in the U.S. So these are two options that you have for wireless connectivity to the internet.
There's always two options, aren't there? It's DSL and cable. It's this and that. The other thing, ISDN.
Beta, VHS.
Yeah, beta and VHS.
Well, the main thing I want is just to have a cell phone and the PDA together.
Right.
Well, that's coming. That's coming because you're going to have the option of either buying a Pocket PC phone edition, like the new T-Mobile that already started getting deployed in the U.S.
Pocket PC. What did you say?
It's called a Pocket PC phone edition.
And that's an OS?
Yes, it's actually a variant of the Pocket PC 2002 operating system.
Okay.
It's just that Microsoft has bundled additional software for GPRS or 1X connectivity to the internet.
Ah.
And also you get phone connectivity in there, so you can actually use it for voice. So you can just put your Pocket PC to your ear and go, "Hello, yes, Nick here."
Will that work on any Pocket PC?
No, it's a new device.
Okay.
That's the thing. You have to buy a Pocket PC phone edition device. You can use any Pocket PC today, though, and buy expansions for them. For example, I have this nice little compact flash card made by AudioVox, and it gives me GSM GPRS connectivity, so I can use it either as a phone. In this instance, I have to connect a hands-free headset, to it. It's a standard headset, and I've got a dialer software that I can install on it to use it as a phone.
Does it work?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
It works great.
Is it only in Canada?
You can actually use it for your iPad if you want. It's not sold in the U.S. though. We ordered it from some web page on the internet, and half of the page was in Taiwanese. And we saw we saw the little lock at the bottom of the Internet Explorer page, so we figured, oh, what the heck, let's just try. It's just $500, so Canadian, so it's like $10 US.
Do you have to have beavers in your backyard in order for that to work?
No, but you could order it. It's some obscure webpage. It's called an AudioVox RTM 8000.
I guess what I'm asking is, will it work in the U.S., do you know, or is it only in Canada?
Just as long as you have a 1X or GPRS connection, it'll work. Because you need to put a SIM in there. Because these connections, they require these little SIM cards.
How much was it, that little device?
It was $283 US.
Huh. Wow.
So, yeah, it's actually very nice. And so we ordered. We figured, they have policies to prevent fraud on the internet if it doesn't work. And what do you know? 8 days later, a box shows up. And we tried it. And then since it was working, we ordered 2 more right away.
Now, this is a good time for you to explain something,
Sure.
which is the difference between Windows CE, Windows CE.net, Pocket PC.
Oh, yeah.
That people are confused, and, no kidding,
Okay, well, let me try to put it in very simple terms.
Okay.
First of all, Windows CE is a specific modular version of Windows that Microsoft has created for embedded systems. So this is not a Windows that you can buy in a store. This is a Windows that has to be licensed and packaged directly inside of a device by a manufacturer.
So would we see this on a phone?
On a phone, on an iPad, on any kind of device, any kind of little pocket computer. Windows CE has been around since '96, and they've got version 1, version 2, 2.11, 2.12. Version 3, Windows CE 3.0, is probably the most popular version because that's the one of the most current versions that you have right now. So Windows CE 3.0 is an embedded operating system for mobile devices.
Okay.
Then what Microsoft has done, because since Windows CE is modular, manufacturers get to pick and choose what they want out of it. They can pick if they want a UI, like the start button and everything. Maybe they don't want to have a UI. Maybe they want to build their own shell for it. Because you have variants of Windows CE for the Auto PC, or Windows CE for automotive something they call it.
Auto PC, yeah, I heard about that.
Auto PC.
So CE isn't just for mobile devices then. It could be for any kind of embedded system, right?
Well, if it's in your car, I'd figure it's mobile, right?
Well, I know that, but that's not why I said that.
Well, yeah, because you're going to have separate modules, for example, for voice recognition or text-to-speech in there. And that's why they say that Windows CE can go everywhere, for example, like in the Sega Dreamcast.
Or a refrigerator.
Windows CE.
Yeah.
And you can put it in a dishwasher if you want, or something like that. So you get to pick and choose what you want out of there. If you want the kernel, well, you need to have the kernel, but do you want drive support, or do you want expansion support, and other features like that? And then Microsoft, what they did to try to encourage compatibility between devices, they kind of picked one set of specifications, one set of features, and then built a spec with that. And they called it the Pocket PC spec.
Okay.
So they said, if we take Windows CE 3.0 and make sure that you have these parts in there, and it's got a quarter VGA sideways touchscreen, like 240 by 320, at least one expansion slot, either SD or compact flash or PC card, no keyboard, but it's going to have a little soft keyboard or other input device that you can have in there, some RAM, of course, some ROM, and an IRDA port for infrared connectivity. Then they said, if you build a device using those specs, then that's a Pocket PC device. So a Pocket PC is pretty much, it's like a shell extension on a specific implementation of Windows CE 3.0.
Okay.
The first generation was Pocket PC, or what they call Pocket PC 2000. Then they came out with a Pocket PC 2002, like all the latest iPacs, like the ones that you were talking about, the 3970 or the Toshiba E740 or other devices like that, like the Jornada 568. These are all Pocket PC 2002 devices.
Okay.
And that means that if you build a software for any implementation of Pocket PC 2002, it's going to work on all of those devices.
Okay.
Windows CE.NET is the new version of Windows CE, so it's version 4. So it's not an add-on, it's not a module, it's not an extra. It's actually just a new version, just like you had Windows 2000 and then Windows XP.
Which also happens to support the .NET framework.
Exactly, the .NET Compact framework.
Right.
Is that available now, or is that still in beta?
Windows CE.NET is the final. It's been shipped to OEMs, and you can expect devices to hit the stores in 2003. The .NET Compact framework itself is also released. It's RTM, it's gold code. So it's also been packaged as part of CE.NET and shipped to manufacturers that you can expect these devices to already have the .NET Compact framework built in.
Wow, so you think the next version of the iPac that's coming out is going to have the framework built in?
I don't think so, because even the next version of the iPac, the 5400 series, is still a Pocket PC 2002 device. So that's still a CE3.
Oh, okay. So there'll be a Pocket PC 2003 or something like that?
I tried to find that out because I was trying to pick Microsoft's brains, the mobility teams, to ask, like, are you going to have some Pocket PC spec very soon that's going to be based on Windows CE.NET? And I guess the obvious answer is yes, but they're not committing to any announcement or anything. So you probably have, I guess it's pretty safe to say, a Pocket PC 2003 or something like that. That's going to be based on CE version 4.
Or are these devices upgradable, Nick? Could I take, say, my 3970 and upgrade it to the 2003 Pocket PC OS?
Well, yeah, because that's a great functionality that most of the OEMs have adopted today. I think it's even part of the spec now, I'm not sure. But they're all using what they call flash ROM. So the whole operating system is not burned on a ROM now. It's on a flash ROM that can be updated or flashed again, as we say. And flash ROM, the great thing is that it keeps information even if there's no battery power. Compact Flash uses the same technology, for example. So that's why you can just remove it from your device, and then it still works. So using that technology, you can install a new version of the OS. Just like the first generation of iPacs was using the Pocket PC 2000 operating system. And then when Microsoft came out with a Pocket PC 2002 spec, then they gave that to manufacturers, and then it was up to the manufacturer to publish a new version of a flash image that you can put on your machine. Because Microsoft doesn't supply Windows C operating systems to consumers. They only give them to manufacturers because they're the ones who license it. So it's up to them to take that new operating system and then package it into a compatible format and test it for their device.
So if you're a hardware company and you're doing custom OEM hardware and writing your own software for it, is it really easy to embed the Windows CE operating system in a device? Does it come on a chip? I mean, how does that work?
Well, yes, it's kind of, easy. It depends. It's easy for people who are used to low-level programming.
Right.
But then again, all you have to do is license the Windows operating system from Microsoft. So you have to get in touch with Microsoft, first of all, and say, we want to license Windows CE. And then you can already have today the tools as part of MSDN that include, for example, the Platform Builder.
Yeah.
And the Platform Builder is the set of tools with wizards and everything, because, of course, you have wizards everywhere.
Right.
And they help you in doing that pick and choose thing that I was telling you about, where you can choose what kind of a platform are you building.
And I imagine then you can just burn it to a ROM.
Well, yeah, I'm not familiar with the exact process after that, because you need to build an image that's going to be compatible with the chip and with the processor that you have in there. This is computer engineering stuff, and I'm a software architect, so I try to steer clear of those things. I'm a VB guy.
Have you ever worked with companies like that do these custom hardware solutions, or do you pretty much use the
Actually, we're
device?
working with a company right now that's looking at a new device, but unfortunately I'm not at liberty to say anything about this.
All right, well, that's okay. I just wanted to know.
But I can tell you, though, it's a pretty nifty device, and it's unlike anything you've seen before.
This stuff is all very cool. So, Mark, you excited now?
Man, I am just thrilled. What can I say? I was curious, Nick. What's the footprint for the compact framework?
Okay, well, the .NET Compact Framework, because I don't think I've actually defined what it is so far. The .NET Compact Framework is a lighter version of .NET that runs on Windows CE devices. So it allows you to benefit from the same great services that you have on the desktop and on a server with .NET, but use them for mobile development. The .NET Compact Framework, I looked at the binaries recently. They've grown a little, but I think it's around 2 megabytes, something like that.
Wow, that's not much.
That's not much at all.
It's pretty good when you think about the full-fledged .NET Framework, which is over 24 megabytes, I think.
Yeah, that's right. What a different philosophy too, because PCs are just so hardware rich today. Memory is cheap, hard drives are cheap. So, you can build an operating system without really having to worry so much about resources. And then we go back to a small handheld device, and you're suddenly boxed in again.
Which begs the question, Nick, what's not there?
What's not there?
What did they
Actually,
take
it's
out?
kind of funny, because just before I answer this, just a comment on what Mark just said. It is kind of a funny business we're in, because the whole IT business, not just mobility. Because if you look at the evolution of software development, if you look at user interface, for example, it seems like every time we master one form of UI, a new technology comes along to challenge us with some kind of a new user experience. So, for example, we went from DOS, and then by the time we could do great UIs in DOS, then we had these graphical user interfaces in Windows that came along, and then it was difficult to do anything then. And then after, when we finally mastered UI in Windows with great tools like, for example, like VB, then the web came along. And then suddenly you had these conferences where people were showing, look, I have a UI with a text box and a button. And you're like, we've been doing this for years with VB.
Right.
And now that we finally mastered the web as well, let's build UIs for little devices like pocket PCs or for worse, phones. So it's kind of a weird situation, because the user experience changes a lot, and developers have to adapt to that user experience. And
Indeed.
The bad thing is that sometimes developers will try to directly migrate their expertise from one field to the other without thinking about the fact that the user is not the same user, or that user will not work in the same way.
I see that all the time in the ASP.NET sections of the masterclass, where I tell people in advance, I ask them to raise their hands. How many people are ASP developers? And, half of them raise their hand. And I say, you guys are going to love this. How many people have never done internet programming? And 3 or 4 people raise their hand. I say, you're going to think this really sucks. I don't say that. I say, you're not going to be impressed, because... Yeah. Because to you, okay, so you got a text box and a button, and you read the put it in the label control. What's the big deal? For ASP programmers who've been doing it the hard way, it's a completely different programming model.
Well, that you said it, because that's what .NET does. It just merges all these programming models from the world of VB, C++, ASP development, and also mobile development. And but let me answer your question now. What's not there?
Okay.
Well, first of all, I really love the compact framework, so I'd like to start with what's there. Because we're getting a lot of things that we never had before on these mobile devices. We're getting a full-fledged CLR. We're getting a JIT compiler, type-safe execution, garbage collection, base classes, exception handling, common type system. So all the great stuff that you already had inside of .NET, most of it is all in there. You get Windows Forms development, ADO.NET, XML namespaces as well, collections, networking. I'm sure you will love this, because being the Mr. Winsock that you are, you get all those great system.NET classes inside of the compact framework.
Sockets.
Yes. Sockets rule.
Yeah, they certainly do. You can't get away from them, actually. Everything's eventually going to use a socket.
Well, I guess.
Everything that communicates, anyway.
So in terms of what is not there, in terms of considerations for size and performance, because as Mark stated, you don't have the same environment. You don't have CPUs that are as powerful. You also don't have as much memory. So you don't have COM interrupt. That's a big... I really miss COM interrupt in there, because COM was a part of the Windows... Well, still is a part of Windows CE, just like it's still a part of Windows. And if you have existing applications that you want to interoperate with, well, you can't. Actually, the only way you can interoperate with a COM component from Windows CE with the .NET Compact Framework, you would have to build a static DLL wrapper in C++ around your COM component and then call it using pinvoke. So that's one of the bad things in there. You don't have any pre-jitting, so you can't pre-jit your components, your assemblies in the Compact Framework. There are also a lot of things that didn't make much sense to put in there. Like there's no ASP.NET because very rarely will you want to host a web server on your iPack.
Yeah, that doesn't make a lot of sense.
I can see that happening.
Oh, I'm sure a lot of geeks would love to try it.
Hi, I got a question. I'm trying to rewrite IIS on my iPack. And...
Yeah. Well, you do have HTTP server services directly in Windows CE, and especially CE.NET. But since it's not a common scenario, Microsoft, they had to pull the plug somewhere, and draw the line and say, we're going to put this in, we're not going to put this in, because they want to have a good feature set for version 1.0 of the Compact Framework. So they had to draw the line somewhere. Some of the other sad things are not there. .NET remoting is not there.
Ah.
So, yeah, I know. But .NET remoting is a very, very expensive engine.
That would be so cool to have at least a client there.
Now wait, web services work with iPacs or through the .NET Compact Framework, right?
Well, yes, that was my point earlier.
Right. So how I always thought web services were kind of built on top of remoting. Not
really. They're based on HTTP client classes, but not directly on remoting, because remoting uses a channeling architecture, so you can pick your channel. You can use an HTTP channel or a binary channel. Well, just go to listen to Rocky's show again if you want to know anything about .NET remoting.
Yeah, right.
But it's not exactly the same architecture under there, because .NET remoting, as Rocky put it in his show, is kind of a superset of web services. But they are not based on the same classes. Well, of course, ultimately everything is based on system.object, but that's not really the point here. So remoting is not there, but yes, you can call web services. You can even make asynchronous calls to your web services.
Now that's very cool.
Which makes a lot of sense on a Pocket PC device because of that whole controversy thing that I mentioned earlier with the low bandwidth and the fact that you're probably going to have a user sitting there and waiting.
Hey, we got a surprise for you. Before we get to that, let me just ask you one question. A lot of people, the first question they ask is, what database engine do I run there? What if I want to write a database application? And, people are automatically just trying to stuff those square pegs into round holes and say, should I be running SQL Server on this thing or Access or what's the data thing? You show them creating a data set and writing XML just to a file and reading it and writing it without a database, for simple sets of data. That works really, really well. And but if you want, a more complex data application, there is a SQL Server, as a matter of fact, isn't there? That runs on...
It's called SQL Server 2000 for Windows CE, or known very shortly it's called a SQL CE.
That's very stripped down, of course.
Very stripped down, yes, but still compatible. For example, you can even set up a SQL CE database for merge replication.
And that's the cool thing, because then you can just write to your local database. You set it back in the cradle through ActiveSync, and all those records get merged automatically, right?
That's one way of doing it, but if you have a live connection using Wi-Fi or GPRS, then the merge replication can also occur over wireless.
Yeah, even better.
So it is even better. You have to be careful, though, because when you said that you can use an XML file that's persisted from an ADO.NET dataset, that works fine. But if you have a lot of records, then that's really going to slow your machine down and be memory hungry. And
that's why I said for a small set of data.
Yeah, the definition of a lot of records is not the same on a Windows CE device than it is on a desktop, because 1,000 records is a lot on a CE device.
Yeah.
Whereas on the desktop, it's nothing.
Hey, we've been busy working on some videos for your enjoyment. Hey, I'm talking about Sunny Day. He's got a new video up at www.franklins.net. Not only that, but Mark Dunn and myself have put together some more how-to videos. Mark shows you how to create an image converter in VB.net. I show you how to call web services asynchronously and how to use event logs for inter-application communication. Hey, you don't want to miss that. That's pretty cool. As always, if you haven't signed up for our .NET newsletter, it's a good idea. We send you code every month and also notifications of new .NET Rocks episodes like the one you're listening to now. So go to franklins.net and sign up for the newsletter. And now let's get back to our talk with Nickolas Landry, where our old friend Robert Scoble drops in on the phone and gives us a heads up about the tablet PC. Stick around. So we're on the line with Robert Scoble from NEC. And hi, Robert.
Hey, how are you doing?
It's been a long time since we actually talked in person.
Thanks.
Thanks? Thanks for not talking to me?
Thanks for not calling me, man.
You
It's been a long time.
Well, it has been a long time, but we go way back, don't we?
Yeah, we do.
You were the Fawcett V-Bits guy for a long time.
Yep, in the good old days.
Right. Were you at the very first one?
Yeah, I was.
Wow.
I was in your class where you were the first speaker to show the internet off at V-Bits.
Right.
Remember that big storm that came up on the screen?
That was an incredible moment. I was showing people how to, with a sockets control, download weather maps, GIF files, and display them in real time. And it was in San Francisco, and there was a huge storm coming, and I got a real-time weather map. And it just showed this weather, just this storm approaching, and everyone gasped. And as it turned out, later that night, the power went out.
Yep, and flooding.
And you had to cancel some sessions and stuff. It was ugly.
Yeah, that was a big storm. Very memorable speech.
Yes, it was. So anyway, you're now working at NEC?
Yeah, I'm in the Mobile Solutions Group. So we're selling pocket PCs and laptops and doing a new tablet, which
Cool.
has been getting a lot of press.
Well, let me introduce you to Nickolas Landry.
Hi there, Nickolas.
Hey, how are you?
Really well.
So, Robert, do you have a question for Nickolas?
Yeah, what opportunities do you see for mobile developers over the next year in the .NET? You know, people who are building apps with .NET for mobile devices. What kinds of things do you think? What kinds of trends do you see happening?
What kind of trends? Well, the first trend that I see is the what we mentioned earlier on the show, which is the merging of programming models. Because you said, what do you see for mobile developers?
Yeah.
And it's true because before you had this notion of a web developer or a mobile developer or a C++ developer, but now they're all merging together inside of .NET. So I guess the first trend is regular Joe developers in IT departments or in companies will now be able to do mobile development. Whereas before, it was a field of specialty where you had to do like only this.
Yep.
Of course, you know, for the sake of my own company, I have to tell you that you still need to specialize into this, so you should come and see us. But if you want to do it yourself, technologies like the ASP.NET Mobile Designer or the .NET Compact Framework will make it easier for companies who just need to do a quick project or something that's not too overkill to build applications and essentially take their existing applications and extend them to these mobile devices.
Okay.
Because today, people are already used to integrating laptops inside of their application scenarios and their business processes because it's the same operating system that's running on a laptop.
Right.
But now that we have Windows CE and that's more mainstream and people want to use that, a lot of people wouldn't go there because you had to use the embedded tools. It was a separate environment that you had to use. And at least now with Visual Studio.NET and the SDE and the Compact Framework, you get to use the same environment, the same programming model. So that's the
great.
first thing. The fact that developers can now build applications without requiring a completely new shift of attitude in terms of development.
Right.
From a corporate standpoint, we've already discussed a bit earlier in the show about the different kinds of applications that you're going to see out there. And I think what makes the most sense is taking applications that you already have and then simply creating a new client for them.
Right.
Just like you have multi-tiered applications that can have both a rich client-based client or a rich client. That was a very bad sentence of mine. Or you can go and use a web client if you want. Now you're going to see applications that will have a third type of client that's going to be a mobile device.
Okay.
Or even a fourth type, because you can also use rich client or web on these devices.
Right.
And companies will simply have to examine what people are still disconnected from the company. And then how can they be reintegrated inside of the business process even though they're not at home or sitting at their desk. There's actually a statistic that says that most knowledge workers spend only 40% of their workday in front of their desk.
Wow.
So if you can have these people get notifications in real time within the company, in the office, in meeting rooms, and things like that, then it's much easier to get them back inside of the business process to make sure that they're still productive even though they are not sitting in front of their desk.
Right.
So you're going to see fields like, as I explained earlier, field service, field inspections, Salesforce automation, which is part of CRM as well, will probably get a big boost from mobility.
CRM?
Yeah, because CRM has been kind of pretty slow to catch on.
What is it?
And I guess the Salesforce part of CRM
what is it,
going to benefit a lot from mobility.
Definition?
Right.
So with CRM, are you talking about customer relationship management?
Yes, exactly.
Okay. See, I don't have those terms on.
Salespeople to not to have to rely on their laptops all the time, because it's long to use a laptop. You have to find a surface to put it on, and then to turn it on, and then the batteries die so quickly on laptops. Whereas mobile devices like iPads or any kind of pocket PC, these devices can usually last for the whole day.
So Nick,
that gives you another option to simply input information very quickly, look up inventory for information, for example. There's nothing worse for a salesperson than to be in a meeting with a client, a potential client, and then push really hard for a product. And then finally the client agrees and says, okay, I'll order it. And then the guy goes out of the office and then goes back to his office and checks on the computer system and then realizes, oh darn, that product is out of stock. And we're back order on it and we're not going to get anytime soon, and he's going to cancel the order. Whereas that person could have pushed for a different product directly in the meeting had they known, or had they gotten a notification directly live in there. So it's all these little things like this. Or healthcare is another area where you're going to see mobility help doctors and nurses a lot, where they can get bedside medical information without having to leave sensitive equipment where anybody can just hack into or get access to sensitive data directly in the hospital.
Yep, security is a big problem. In fact, our division is selling a fingerprint security system for some of the mobile devices.
Oh, cool.
So that if you want access to your data, you have to put your fingerprint there, and then it'll turn on.
Yeah, I was recently in an airport when I was traveling and ran into an engineer from IBM, and he was showing me a prototype device that he had made for proof of concept, and it had a thumbprint biometric in it. He said IBM didn't manufacture that component; they bought it from someone else. But, he was really into the way this thing worked. Apparently, if you severed someone's thumb, that wouldn't work. You couldn't cut someone's thumb off and log into it because it would detect that there was no blood circulating in the thumb.
Wow.
There was a nice picture.
Right.
So, hey, Robert, actually, I'd like to ask you a question.
Sure.
You were at NEC, right?
Yes.
Do you guys have a new tablet PC coming out? Are you in that big tablet PC wave?
Yeah, we just at Comdex last week we announced the Versa tablet, which is a 0.6-inch thick tablet and weighs 2.1 pounds. Bill Gates held it up and said it was the lightest and thinnest one.
So did they sell the tablet PC at auction on eBay for the one that Bill Gates actually touched or something?
No. That's a good idea. There's rumors here they actually took it in bed with him, because that's what he said at the launch.
I know where he was surfing.
Okay, there was another picture I don't want to have in my mind.
They erased the hard drive conveniently enough so we wouldn't know. We wouldn't be able to look to his...
In bed with Bill and a tablet PC.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
So how are you pushing this device onto the market then? What's your angle with the tablet PC?
Well, there's two kinds of tablets available. There's convertible tablets, which have the keyboards built in, and then the screen spins, like the Acer device, spins around, and you can write on the screen then. Or
HP has one of those as well.
HP has a detachable keyboard where the screen actually has like a docking station almost that you can hook in and out of the keyboard. Those are pretty neat, and there'll be customers who need a keyboard and come at the world through a keyboard-centric computing experience. We think tablet is going to be successful only if it gets into new markets. In other words, into people who have to stand up while they're doing their jobs. People like lawyers or teachers,
bathroom attendants.
Well,
or medical professionals like you were talking about. A nurse who has to go from patient to patient to patient, write down and look up, X-rays and stuff like that. And for those people, we think that the lightest and thinnest tablets are going to be really important.
Do you have one, Robert?
I have one here. Yeah, it's pretty neat.
Well, yeah, I had recently a UPS guy come by to deliver something, and he had me sign for the package on something that looked an awfully lot like a tablet PC.
Was it brown?
No, it wasn't brown.
Yeah, just like a beaver pelt.
But with that, with the true tablet or slate designs, you can use keyboards. We have 3 USB 2.0 slots, so you can plug in a keyboard and a mouse and use it at your desk like a traditional, Windows XP laptop. Like I use most of the time on my desktop. And then you can take it, you can unplug it and take it on the road and go out and work on it as a traditional tablet. We think, at least listening to the customers who are calling about tablets, most of the initial people who are interested are in these vertical markets. People who have to stand up while they work. They're the first ones who are really interested in the tablet. I think eventually every laptop is going to be a tablet anyways, because the technology makes a lot of sense. It's really neat to be able to circle things and draw on the screen and do a little bit of handwriting on emails and stuff like that.
Is handwriting recognition any better on the tablet PC than, say, compared to an iPad?
Oh, good question.
Yeah, it is, and it's different too because there's a new data type on the tablet, an ink data type, and that data type actually stores your handwriting as vector information. So, and underneath it converts it underneath to text, so you can search on, if you write a page of notes, you can actually search for words in your page of notes, which is pretty interesting.
And it understands script and cursive and everything?
Yeah, it understands several languages, which is why the tablet over in Asian countries is actually even a bigger deal than it is here in the United States. Here in the United States, almost every computer user today knows how to keyboard pretty well. But over in Asia, writing one language takes several keyboard, like writing kanji, the keyboard doesn't map to the 400 characters or 4,000 characters that are in kanji. So,
right. You ever seen a Chinese typewriter, Robert?
I haven't.
I saw one. It's enormous.
Yeah. I've heard that people have to do several keystroke commands for one character.
Right.
Where on the tablet, all they have to do is draw the character, and it automatically recognizes it.
That's great.
I guess the challenge is going to be healthcare, though, because doctors are famous to have horrible handwriting.
Yeah, but I was talking to a couple nurses who were asking about it, and a lot of times they're going around from patient to patient and just charting information. Is the patient feeling pain? Yes or no? Is the patient,
is the patient alive?
Is the patient breathing?
Or what's their heart rate? And for those things, you don't really
color
need
of the patient's face.
You could have a .NET application that has a user interface that says, that has a little slider for how many heartbeats per minute you're sensing.
I wrote something like that once, actually.
Yeah, and so you can do a lot of data input without forcing the doctor or the nurse to do handwriting. And to tell you the truth, most of the doctors would be able to plug it into a keyboard, back at their desk, if they're going to do a lot of data entry anyways. And also you store, their handwriting is stored there, so as ink, so you could print that out and look at it. And if you didn't understand it,
if you
can't see it,
you can ask him, do you actually read your own handwriting?
Yes
so
or
you
no?
get to see it right there.
Yeah.
Hey, I have a question for both of you guys. Maybe Nick, and maybe Robert, What's the prognosis for the .NET framework on the tablet PC?
Well, the tablet PC is Windows XP. So
exactly.
First of all, it is Windows XP. It's full version of Windows XP.
Oh, really?
So any .NET app that runs on Windows XP runs on the tablet automatically.
Awesome.
Now to to use the ink data type in your application, I believe it's just a control that you add in. There's an SDK that's freely available already, and you can start building in user interface elements that use the ink data type pretty easily, from what I understand.
Cool. Hey,
Actually,
what does this thing cost?
Oh, sorry.
Hey, Robert, what do these things cost? What are
tablets? They are selling for between $1,600 and $2,500, and there's about 10 to 20 manufacturers that are selling various kinds of tablets. NEC is going to be a little bit later to the market. We're coming in the second wave, so we'll be shipping in the first quarter of next year. But there's several that are shipping right now.
Oh, can you tell us what goodies are in your tablet? Processor speed, drive space, that kind of thing?
I can't. Right now, Intel's asked us not to reveal what the internal specs of our tablet are.
You can tell us whether or not they have a wireless internet,
keep it between us.
Yeah,
they have a wireless internet, though, right?
We have 802.11 built in.
Cool.
We have USB, obviously. It's pretty much a full standard. I mean, if you think of a standard laptop today, the problem is also the digitizers are because we're going for lightweight. We went with about a 10-inch screen, 10.5-inch screen. So, these aren't desktop replacement machines. They're not. They won't have 2,000 pixels across, and Pentium 4s. They're
right.
The first waves have been, either based on a Transmeta around an 800 or 900 megahertz processor, or Intel Pentium 3 style, 900 megahertz.
Do they support PCI cards?
No, ours has compact flash slot. Some of them do have PC card slots.
Okay. PIC-MICA
some
cards.
of them have FireWire, IEEE 1392.
Wow.
Capability. I don't think ours is going to have that, but we will have. Actually, we might have the Fire. I don't want to say. But we definitely have 3 USB 2.0 slots, so the USB 2.0 is just as good as FireWire from us.
Awesome.
Well, this seems like the kind of the second life for the tablet PC. A few years ago, it seems like I remember, tablets were a big thing in the news, and then, nothing really happened with them. Do you see it being different this time around?
Yeah, because it's a full version of Windows XP. The previous tablets, I had a Clio, which was a previous tablet, and I've always had Pocket PCs and Palms and that kind of device. And they were interesting, but they were always limiting. I could never rely on them as my full, my main desktop PC, because they did not have Windows XP. They were based on either Windows CE or some proprietary mix of stuff.
So that's an interesting point.
This is full Windows XP. So if there's a video game, it runs. If there's a application that you rely on, if it runs on XP, it runs on the tablet, which is a huge improvement. Because I'm a power user, and I need all the different applications that I use. And to go to Windows CE, it just is so limiting.
It's a good point, Nick. It's a good point to bring up, Nick. That mobile devices now. Would you call a tablet PC a mobile device or not? I mean, it is a mobile device, but it certainly has. So the mobile devices you're talking about are generally smaller, generally specialized for a particular task.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Whereas the tablet PC is more general use.
The thing the tablet changes to the market is now you can use a computer while standing up. And that's going to bring, I'm already getting a lot of calls from like school teachers and university professors, from lawyers, from people who do home inspections. You can imagine anybody who does their work while standing up at least some of the time.
Like a gym instructor, for example.
A gym instructor. Anybody who's...
and stretch.
A news person on TV who needs to stand up and read from a device, a tablet would be great for that. A salesperson, JCPenney's is talking to us about tablets, because if you're a salesperson, you have to stand up. And to go back to a central station and crouch over a keyboard makes you lose contact with your customer in some way. Whereas if you could, walk over.
So it's really the same argument that a mobile device like an iPad has, except that you have the full PC there. It's a little heavier, of course, and it's not as specialized.
Right.
So I can see, you know, these are two totally distinct markets. You know, if you want to have something you can take down in a coal mine, you know, and use a particular application that's very simple and, you know, gathers data or communicates or something like that, you know, an iPack might be a good thing when size is important.
Well, I would pick a ruggedized
and
device
price
for a
also.
coal mine.
Well, okay,
Yeah.
you know what I mean, a rugged
Well,
device.
also you have to be the tablets are much more pricey instruments.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, they're $1,600 to start at the base models, and the high-end models are going to be $2,500.
That's
a
something you'd
Pocket
give the
PC
guy in the
now
warehouse.
You know, a low-end Pocket PC now is $200 for a Dell device, up to, you know, $400 for ours, and $600 for the high-end devices with everything on them.
Yeah.
So you can buy a lot more Pocket PC devices than you can tablets, but you're right. You're limited. The OS on Windows CE is not the same as Windows XP. You don't have the full version of Office. If you're an Excel freak, you don't have the full version of Excel.
Right.
Well, you know, what I always say is you have to pick the right device for the right job, and the tablet PC is just a great new device that opens up a whole new set of possibilities, but it's not going to be used everywhere, just like you can't use an iPad everywhere. So It's another option in your arsenal.
Yeah. I think within 3 or 4 years, most of the laptops are going to be tablets, just because writing on the screen is very powerful. And I think as people see that used in the corporations or at home, they'll want that feature. But clearly right now, the machines are, smaller screens. The biggest screen I've seen is about a 12-inch screen, where you can get laptops now with 16-inch screens.
Yeah.
Cool. Well,
so there'll be different devices for different things, but the tablet clearly is a really neat new addition to our arsenal.
Cool.
What resolution are you typically running on that?
What resolution is 1024 by 768. I think the version 1.0 of the tablet OS actually limits you to that.
So, Robert, in exchange for your, nice 20-minute infomercial here, can you have NEC send me one?
I wish. We'll talk in February, man.
Okay. Listen, I'm really glad you called, and thanks a lot for talking with us.
Hey, no problem. Thanks.
All right, I'll see you later. Yo, listen up. If you do any development with web services, you need to check this out. Go to msdn.microsoft.com. On the front page this week, Microsoft has web services enhancements from Microsoft.net available for download. And so what this does is it gives you advanced web services functionality, and for Visual Studio.net and framework developers using Notepad, obviously, to support the latest web service capabilities. We're talking about digital signatures, encryption, message routing capabilities, and the ability to include message attachments that are not serialized into XML. So this is all based on standards, all based on WS security, WS routing, WS attachments, and DIME specifications. Look, there's white papers up there, there's downloads, there's code. This is just the tip of the iceberg here with Visual Studio.net 2002. 2003 is right around the corner, and here we have some serious enhancements for web services, and it's only going to get better. Check it out at msdn.microsoft.com. So now on the phone with us from Internology in San Diego, California, it's Tim Huckaby.
Gentlemen,
Hey, Tim.
how are we?
What's
We're
up,
doing
man?
good.
We're excited, Tim.
Mark, Carl, I hear you have a somewhat famous French-Canadian on the show tonight.
Yep, that's right.
That's exactly why I'm calling. So, Nick, is that you on the line?
Yeah, it's me, Tim. Good
How
to
are
see
you? Je t'aime, la plage, que sera, sera. That's all the French I know.
I'll have to teach you more.
Yeah. Well, I couldn't resist calling in, knowing you had Nick on the line tonight.
Yeah.
Yeah, we know that you love Canadians, Tim.
Oh, yeah.
Now, don't incite me.
So
don't
is it
incite
fair
me
to
into Canada jokes, please.
is it
I
fair to
always seem
say that
get
you
in trouble.
is it fair to say that you like Canadians?
I love Canadians. I just have a problem with them taking over the world.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, well, I saw this article recently where they were talking about military forces, and apparently, in all of NATO, the only countries that have let me start again. The only countries in NATO that have a smaller budget than Canada in military are, I think, Iceland and Luxembourg.
That's because America will bail you out anytime, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
So what should you have to worry about?
Well,
Being attacked by beavers or moose or something. A beaver stormed the...
Edit that.
Yeah, I think most of the famous comedians in the world are Canadian, aren't they? Aykroyd and Jim Carrey, they're both Canadians.
John Candy, oh, he's dead.
Pam Anderson
Suffice
is also
it to
Canadian,
say,
you know?
I spend a lot of time in Redmond, Washington, which is not actually that fun, but man, you would swear that Microsoft is being taken over by Canadians.
Really?
Oh, man, there's a lot
So
of
is that why the
Canadians
stock dropped?
No.
So Tim, you have a question for Nickolas?
Of course, the reason for my calling. So, Nick.
Yes.
You know, we've been, through the years, we've been in this web versus Windows debate, and many a shouting match in conference rooms I've personally witnessed. And it wasn't until .NET, really, that we started considering Win32 apps again, or I guess we call them Windows apps now, or Windows Forms apps, because of, .NET makes deployment relatively easy, although we're not there yet. But I'm interested to hear, because you're so big in mobility, if you're seeing the same type of arguments on the MMIT versus Compact Framework side. And I should throw the acronyms. Microsoft Mobile Internet Toolkit,
Thanks.
Of course, is a web-based client.
It has a new name now, by the way, because it's called the ASP.NET Mobile Designer. They probably changed it, after Ari Bexhorn referred to it as good old Mehmet on VBTV.
So what are your thoughts on that?
Well, first of all, yes, there is a debate. But the answers to the debate are not the same ones. Because some of the things you have for .NET are not there for the Compact Framework. So, for example, you don't have auto-deployment on the Compact Framework. So wherever you would feel like you can still go to a rich client on .NET because you get the advantages of deployment through auto-deployment, then it's not there on the Compact Framework, so you're back to square one in terms of the debate. Although, the big difference is that whenever you're using a desktop application that connects to a web server, either through the internet or an intranet-based application, it's very easy to have connectivity. Whereas on a mobile device, getting connectivity is kind of tough. So unless you can always have, 100% of the time a connectivity to your web server, then you have to go to a rich client that's going to give you offline use. So right away, you're probably going to have many more .NET Compact Framework scenarios than ASP.NET Mobile Designer scenarios because of this, unless we actually reach a point where connectivity to the wireless internet is a lot easier and more mainstream.
Well, you make an interesting point there, and which leads to the bigger debate. But firstly, the disconnected scenarios certainly make this thing even more complex decision. So I think you just said that we're still going to yell at each other in conference rooms when it comes to design time. But what we're finding, we're fairly savvy on mobility and have written numerous apps, but we're just not seeing a lot of work. And the reason is, in America, we don't have the infrastructure like they have in other places in the world.
Including Canada, by the way.
From a Canadian perspective, and then certainly worldwide, is mobility finally going to take off?
Yes, definitely. And because we're already
in Canada.
there, by the way. This is one of the few areas where Canada is ahead of the U.S.
No, let's be honest. You're ahead of us in a lot of ways. Certainly,
okay, but
getting
seriously,
drunk and shooting shotgun blasts at animals on the side of the road. You're way ahead of us.
You get more beavers up there than we do.
God bless it, Mark. Will you stop the beaver stuff?
You do more moose antler sculptures.
I've got beaver on my mind tonight.
So, are you talking about New Orleans stuff, Tim, again?
We're not going there either.
Wait a minute. What about New Orleans?
I'm not saying.
Crickets.
No kidding.
Cricket.
What happened in New Orleans?
I want to hear this story at some point.
What happened in New Orleans, Nick?
Let's just say that Nick was particularly happy about some good sessions that he did at God knows what event we were at.
Dev Connections.
Connections. I shouldn't forget this because I love those guys. That's you, right,
And
Carl?
we love you too, Tim.
I love you, Carl. And let's just say that Nick celebrated a little bit too hard that night.
Ah.
Just that night?
A wee
For
too much
7 nights in a row.
Jägermeister.
Well, they have a famous drink on Bourbon Street at a place called the Tropical Isle. It's called a hand grenade. And the hand grenade has a reputation of being New Orleans' most potent drink.
Uh-huh.
And it's a secret formula. You don't know what's in it. And the consumption record is 11. I do not hold that record, by the way. Most people will only have one. The heavy drinkers will have maybe two.
Wow.
I'm a regular in New Orleans now, so I can actually stomach 4. So.
Jeez.
So some guy drank 11 of these things?
Excuse me?
Nick's dad.
Well, that goes to show you that Tim was right. Canadians have us beat in the realm of drinking.
Yeah, the only problem is you glow in the dark after you drink so many hand grenades.
You count to 10 and then you explode.
Yeah, something like that. So yeah, we were talking about Canada and the fact that we're
right.
We're ahead in connectivity. So
I think what happened in the United States with connectivity is everybody overspent on all these big companies that promised to deliver the infrastructure, and of course, they got caught in the .com economy and went under. And I think there's nothing else you can say about that. They just overspent.
They're slowly starting deployment, like we mentioned earlier, on 1X and GPRS, and we've had GPRS for over a year now here.
Yeah.
And 1X is already being deployed and going to hit mainstream in 2003.
Cool.
With Bell Mobility here in Canada, all over Canada, by the way.
Wow.
And it's funny because back at Dev Connections, I was talking to our friend Pat Hines, who did episode 1, and Pat was telling me on how happy he was because he actually got a GPRS connection up there around the Boston area.
Mm-hmm.
And he was all happy because he said, I'm getting this great deal because I have unlimited access to wireless internet using GPRS for $99 a month. And I'm like, what?
Wow.
$99 a month?
You go, buddy.
And he was happy. And he said, what do you get? Well, I said, I have unlimited GPRS for $50 Canadian. So it's like, what, $4 US, I think, or something like that.
Uh-huh.
So it's a lot cheaper here, and several carriers will offer it as well. So I guess this shows a trend where, yes, mobility will pick up, and where the U.S. are leaders in a lot of areas, I guess in communications, it's not always the
it's not that
issue.
It's not that we suck at communications, that we suck at trying to run companies to do communications.
Well, I think that the FCC makes it a little complicated, too.
Yeah.
Well, yes, there's also the issue that you have the big carriers. If you just go all over the world and look at how these countries are run in terms of communications, you don't have the big monopolistic approaches of telecom companies that you have in North America.
Yep.
And you have a lot of carriers over there that all have deals with each other.
Right.
And it's a lot easier to do business with these guys because you can actually approach them and sit down and talk business with them. Whereas if you try to do the same thing with Verizon or Sprint, they're going to laugh at you.
They don't give you the time of day.
Yeah, unless you're Microsoft or another company like that.
So it's not a free market competition kind of thing that is driving the prices low?
I guess so, yes.
Well, there's that, but also, Mark, I mean, a lot of these places never got their networks off the ground just because of political stuff and inflationary stocks and, too high stock prices, and, they just ran a bad company. So Tim Huckaby has magically transformed himself from his house to his car. Tim, you still there?
I'm here. I'm sitting next to the world famous Bill Sheldon, actually. And we're on our way to the San Diego.net user group.
Uh-huh. Okay.
Yeah, I don't think we ever defined exactly who is Tim Huckaby.
No, we didn't. We said he was from Internology. He's a regional director from San Diego. But, Tim, why don't you give a brief history of the Huckster?
There's no brief history. In my life, there's no brief anything.
Uh-huh.
But
so you don't wear underwear is what you're saying?
I run a company that's pretty fairly successful. Actually, it runs me, and that company name is Internology.
Yeah.
But I have a good life. I live a dual life. I do a bunch of technology evangelism. I'm a Microsoft regional director. I sit on way too many councils at Microsoft and partner advisory councils and such. And I get to go around the world talking about technology. It's pretty fun, actually.
You were actually
Blaming Canadians for stuff.
You were actually the RD of the year one year, was it?
Yes, I was the Microsoft Regional Director of the Year in the year 2000.
How cool is that?
And it was shortly after that I formed the company, or I founded the company. And, in life, sometimes you get what you ask for, whether you like it or not. And my partner at the time, Dave Lynn, who now works for Microsoft, and I used to bitch and complain. We were working for a company, as we affectionately called it, the Evil Empire.
Uh-huh.
And we used to whine and complain about how we could do this better and we could do it honestly and ethically and our clients would love us and, screw these people. And he was the head of sales and I was the head of engineering. And sure enough, it doesn't take a lot of money to start a company, at least in the service business, and we fell into some bass backwards. And although last year was pretty much a night year, very difficult year because of the economy, it really has worked out quite well. And I have a handful of very talented, Nick Landry type people who are going to be famous over the next couple years.
Great.
And certainly 30 more people that are just fantastic, talented people. It's not easy though. It's not about software. Sometimes it's about chasing work, as you guys know.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
So now you spend a lot of time at Microsoft, and I have heard through the grapevine that you have some incredible Bill Gates stories to share.
Oh, man. Well, let's make one thing clear. I do not know Bill Gates personally.
Okay.
I'm sure he would recognize me, and he'd point at me and look funny and go, "You're the guy from San Diego, right?" And I would say, "Yeah." I don't know him personally, but, having so many friends in Redmond, Washington, you do hear a variety of Bill Gates stories. And the funny thing about Microsoft people is they always call him Bill. Have you noticed that?
Yeah.
Right.
As if all 50,000 employees were on this personal relationship with Mr. Gates.
Right.
Yeah, they're all on this buddy list.
I would call him, sir,
Yeah.
when addressing him personally.
Yeah.
But let's see, Bill Gates stories. They either have a lot of cussing in them, so they're not suitable for your audience.
Actually, you can cuss all you want. We'll bleep it out.
And you're going to beep it out?
Yeah.
Or they're sad. So let me think. You may or may not know I did the last launch event, the Visual Studio launch in February of this year.
Iron Developer.
I got to spend 2 days with Mr. Gates.
Uh-huh.
And it was very, very interesting, but kind of sad. And that is because, he is beyond cultural icon now. He's almost a cult of personality. So he can't even walk into a room and make eye contact anymore. So many people, CEOs of giant companies, are just begging just to shake his hand. It's really quite pathetic.
Yeah.
So anyway, so me and Woodgate and John Rauschenberger are backstage and at a Bill Gates event. This is a long story. Sure you want to insert?
Yeah, go ahead.
With this?
Go ahead.
At a Bill Gates event, everything is so tightly scripted. Every little movement you make, every little demo has backup. There's little people behind the stage following my mouse clicks just in case something goes wrong on stage. I mean, it's really quite a contrived event, as you might well guess.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of Hollywood people behind the stage, and we're waiting for the event to start. And John and I and Scott are joking about, there's nothing to be nervous about because we've done this so many times that there's nothing ad-lib in our whole shtick. And I could see him coming, and we're laughing, and it's like 10 minutes to showtime. And I see Gates appear from the shadows, and he walks right up to us and starts talking to us. And I thought, wow, this is cool.
Oh, Carl, how could you do that to us? We want to hear the story. Okay, we'll get back to the story in just a second, and it's awesome, I promise. But first, I want to follow up on this
extensions for web services that's available at msdn.microsoft.com. MSDN Magazine has an article by Janine Hall Gailey in the December 2002 issue on using DIME, which is Direct Internet Message Encapsulation, for sending files and attachments in big binaries through web services. Now, I haven't read this at the time of this recording, so I'm still learning about it. But, it's definitely worth looking at. The first thing that comes to mind is, security. I don't want EXEs being sent and executed, and I want to make sure that that's going to be safe. So from what it looks like here, it's a very rich architecture based on standards. Standards is what it's all about, and I'm really, really looking forward to checking this out. Won't you join me at msdn.microsoft.com/msdnmag. MSDN Online. All right, now let's get back to this great story that Tim Huckaby is telling us about Bill Gates right here on .NET Rocks.
Just prior to Gates walking up, the assistant producer, this little gal, had come up to the three of us and said, all right, you three, I want you to stand on this fucking piece of tape, and I don't want you to fucking move until I fucking tell you to. So then Gates walks up and starts talking to the average Joe. Well, I'm facing Gates, and Scott and John are on the sides. We're kind of in a semicircle, and I see all the Hollywood-type people in the background, and certainly Gates has an entourage of VPs that he walks around with, and they're all talking and they're looking at us. And sure enough, this little executive producer gal comes up and says, guys, just interrupts the conversation. And Gates was generally, having a good time. I could tell. We were talking tech and kidding around. And he says, guys, I realize I told you to stand on this piece of tape, but now I need you to stand on that one. And she pointed to a spot 10 feet away. And we kind of looked at each other puzzled, and I could swear I saw a depressed look on Bill Gates' face because the three of us walked 10 feet away and left Gates standing there by himself while we continued to joke around. It was really quite sad, actually.
It's so bad.
Kind of the testament to Bill Gates' life. He can't even have fun when he wants to.
Wow.
Yeah, he's got handlers, basically, right?
Yeah, and his handlers at the time, Steve, what's Steve's last name? Ben Rokel, who he's now in GXA in Microsoft. Great guy. Very technically savvy, does all the messaging. His current handler is also a very cool person. Okay, but I'm not the only one that runs into famous people at shows. Nick, I heard, ran into a famous European rock star the other day in Germany.
What happened there?
I can't believe you're bringing this up.
Germany?
So who was this? Britney Spears, Nick? Who was it?
I was speaking at this great show in Germany, in Frankfurt, 2 weeks ago called .NET 1. And .NET 1 was this really, really advanced show with these amazing speakers, people like, Tim, Michelle Aruba-Stamente.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I do. She's spoken at our user group 3 times, I believe. We've got her. She's a San Diego.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Well, actually, she's from Toronto, though.
Right.
Oh, goddamn, with the Canada thing again. She lives in San Diego, goddammit, for a reason.
Yeah, we have the best women, They're beautiful and they're smart. So Michelle was there talking about reflection, attributes, security.
We have beautiful, smart women. Don't you watch Jerry Springer? I saw one on there today, a 400-pound lesbian who told her boyfriend to go take a hike.
Or pregnant, 400-pound pregnant lesbian.
Yeah, brought out her toothless lover, and they started going at it right there, and I couldn't believe it.
Nice.
And then I remembered why I don't watch Jerry Springer. It makes me sad to be an American.
Oh, boy.
Do you have anything like that up there, Jerry Springer?
Nothing is bad, no.
You have more self-esteem than that.
Yeah, I
They
guess.
have Don Cherry on that Sunday night hockey thing.
All right, anyway, so let's hear about this girl.
Okay, so essentially it was this show where everybody, these great speakers were there, Ted Newer, Dino Esposito, and Ralph Westphal was the regional director in Germany. And
All the
Christian
MSDN
Fire.
authors.
So I was at this hotel because it was at the Maritime Hotel, this amazingly beautiful hotel in the middle of Frankfurt that has this big concert hall right next to it. And the weekend we got there, right before the show, there was this big 2-night charity event. So all the big pop stars and the boy groups and all the big stars from Germany were there to sing at this charity event. The hotel was swarming with groupies. I've never seen this. I thought they were there for our show at first. You know,
Landry groupies.
I wish. No, we don't get groupies like this. We get short, stubby geeks, you know, who stump us with tough questions about mobility.
Can I have your autograph?
So we're at this hotel, and there's groupies everywhere. And after the evening, we're at the bar partying with the other speakers and having fun. And then I see this little group of people that move up to the elevator. And I see this really sexy chick, blonde chick, with these funky pants. So, being active Nick, I guess, I just walk up to her, and I look at her and say, I really like your pants.
That's a great pickup line. Does that work for you often?
that was pretty good, because then I said, like, did you buy them like this? Did you have them made for you or something? Yeah. So she was all flattered and pleased and everything. We chit-chatted a bit, and then she leaves with her friends in the elevator. And then as I come back, people are like, oh my God, what did you just do? And I'm like, what's going on? Well, did you know who that was over there? And I'm like, just a sexy girl, I guess. No, that was Sarah Connor.
Sarah
Connor.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, isn't that Linda Hamilton's character in The Terminator? And no, she's this big pop star. Everybody love her here in Germany, and she's the equivalent of Britney Spears or Christina Aguilera, but for Germany. So they're like, how did you get to talk to her? Like, why was she even speaking to you, I said, I don't know, maybe it's a Canadian thing again, or a French thing, I don't know. So then later on, of course, when she comes back down in the lobby, I ran after her again, and I just went, hi, now that I know who you are, I just thought I'd introduce myself.
So you got some pictures, didn't you?
I actually have pictures. Maybe I could give you the pictures for the website.
Absolutely.
I actually have two.
I've seen the pictures. They're worth posting on the website.
Okay, we'll do that.
Yeah, she's cute. Reminds me of Cameron Diaz a little bit.
Huh.
Yeah, as sexy, I would say, very easily.
So Nick,
that was a big thing for that show, but it was a great show overall. I got a chance to talk about the compact framework and building compatible applications for .NET
cool.
And the architecture and infrastructure differences. I love Germans. They work hard, but they also play hard, and they host amazing events.
So let's get back to the framework, if you don't mind.
Sure.
That's sort of why you're here. So tell me what's not there and what's there. We started that earlier, but I'd like to finish up.
Okay, sure. I already stated that there is a full CLR with the full services from the CLR without COM interrupt, though,
right,
and no pre-jitting.
Right.
The class libraries, you get a 25% subset.
Okay.
So they're not all there, but you get a lot of classes. And
remoting's not there, we said.
Well, what's not there? You have stuff that you don't mind, like directory services and enterprise services for Complot.
That's not appropriate.
WMI and service process. That's okay. The things that are not there that we're kind of mourning for are system.configuration, so you don't have the config file.
Okay.
So you'd have to resort to your own format or the registry.
Right.
As I already said, there's no system messaging for MSMQ, no remoting, there's no serialization, no generic serialization, actually.
That's the big minus, the serialization one.
Definitely.
Be nice to have.
I think the number is actually 30%, though, right, Nick? That 30% of the framework.
I'll be honest with you, I haven't counted them, but that's probably a very good bet.
Out of 6,500 framework classes, you haven't counted them up? So I know I saw a list the other day in Redmond, obviously somewhat NDA, but it's like the 10 framework classes missing that we'd most love to see.
Yeah. I got a question for you, Nick, and this has to do with what we're talking about in a roundabout way. But it has to do with, memory constraints and all that stuff.
Yep.
Memory is small, Hard drives, I've got a 20 gig hard drive that also happens to play MP3s and videos. That's like smaller than an iPack. Or, it's about as big. Why can't we do that? Why do we have to have a 64 megabyte limit?
Well, first of all, they're jamming a lot of stuff in those little devices.
Uh-huh.
You get Wi-Fi connectivity.
I know
you get a lot of ports.
I know that, but it just seems that memory is small. Why can't we have more? Why can't we have a bigger framework?
I think they also don't want to drive the price up because flash memory is still not very, very cheap. And already these devices are running $300 to $600.
Yeah.
And they want to try to keep them as low as possible. But you can get more if you want.
But do you think in the future that we'll have more memory, we'll have hard drives, we'll have those things built in?
I don't think you'll get a hard drive because the problem with hard drives is they're mechanical pieces.
Right.
You'll probably just get more flash RAM.
More flash.
You already have 512 and even 1 gigabyte flash cards.
Huh.
Compact flash format. You can get a 256 meg SD card with 512 coming soon. Already the
I
new
just
iPad,
got one actually.
Pardon?
I just got one actually today. It
Well,
just came.
exactly. And the new iPad that you got has 48 megabytes of ROM in there. Whereas all the new models that were coming out in the last year only had 32 megs of ROM.
So what's in the ROM and what versus what goes in the RAM?
Well, the ROM will contain the operating system itself, the Pocket PC and Windows CE stuff that Microsoft puts in there, plus the few applications that your OEM will add in there, like little menus and little configuration things that are specific to the device.
Okay.
The great thing about some devices, like the iPad, for example, is that since the ROM is not full, they give you access to that ROM.
Yeah.
So in the case of your iPad, you have 24 megabytes of the iPad file store that you can access, and that's solid state. So it's
okay.
You can directly save in there, and even if you lose everything, you're still going to keep your data in there.
Oh, good.
So
Okay.
the big limiting factor in handheld devices is battery too.
True.
The battery technology is way behind.
Yeah.
And they just can't make batteries that can keep up with all the horsepower in the device system.
Yeah, you end up getting sleeves that have batteries on them, but then it's a big device once you pack, the big sleeve on the back of it.
Well, starting next year and from then on, you're going to see some great devices because they have this new battery technology. It's a liquid polymer that you can just put in there to fill in like every little space that's going to be left. And these batteries, first of all, are going to be bigger just because they occupy more space in there. They're not like square batteries. And on top of it, these batteries can just capture residual energy from the air around them.
Ooh.
So your own body will be able to power your devices.
That sounds weird.
So, no, but seriously, this is coming. And this is not something that's going to hit mainstream like right away. And this is not going to recharge your device right away just by holding it in your hand. But at least it's going to lower the consumption of your device by providing some extra juice as you use it in the day.
Wow.
So it's a very cool field, and you're going to see a lot of great technologies hitting the streets over the next few years.
Nick, we were talking with Scott Stanfield, and he says that batteries are going to rule the day. They're going to rule us in the future. We were talking about this epiphany that I had that in the future I had this revelation that the only job left will be computer programmer because, the job of a programmer is to automate all the other jobs. And so the only job left will be computer programmer at some point. And he said computer programmer and battery management.
Yeah, well, wasn't that the whole thing about the Matrix? Where the whole species was turned into batteries?
Right.
Yeah, that's why they called him Copper Top.
Gentlemen, I'm here at the Microsoft San Diego office.
Okay.
And I got to MC the user group, so I got to sign off.
Well, tell them all about .NET Rocks, will you?
Absolutely. In fact, it's in the slides for tonight. You better believe it.
Excellent.
So expect a gazillion people
Awesome.
hitting your site soon.
Thanks, Tim.
It was a pleasure talking to all of you.
Thanks very much for calling.
Thanks,
all right,
Tim.
and then we'll see you around, huh?
All right, take care, Tim.
See you,
Bye.
Tim.
Later, gentlemen.
Bye. There goes a crazy man right there.
Yep.
The first time I saw him speak was at the .NET Authors Summit in 2001, I believe. And he was doing a train the trainer kind of thing. No, it was the RD Summit. And so he gets up to do his talk. He's got a bottle of Absolute filled with water sitting on the podium. And every once in a while, he'd just take a big old hit off it. And he didn't tell anybody, don't worry, it's just water. So,
That's Tim. That's just typical Tim.
Never made a reference to it, never said, what? It's just water. Never said anything, just completely just hit off of it the whole time. I thought that was great. And I could see Ilya Buchenstein in the front row going, "Will you cut that out?" Okay.
Hey, Nick, what kind of devices run the compact framework?
Well, that's a good question, because as of today, there are no devices that ship with the compact framework in there. Microsoft has sent it to manufacturers and OEMs so that they can include it in their next release of Windows CE .NET devices, so the CE4. And I haven't seen any official statements as to when we're going to see CE.NET devices, but you can bet that we're going to have quite a few in 2003. Right now, your best bet is to use a Pocket PC 2000 or Pocket PC 2002 device, because that's the only generation of Windows CE3 devices that will support the .NET Compact framework.
So Windows CE.NET in general doesn't support it?
Windows CE.NET does. Windows CE,
of course it does.
Because it's version 4, but Windows CE3 doesn't.
Windows CE3 does not.
Yeah, because Pocket PC 2000 and 2002 are based on CE3.
Got it.
But that's the only implementation of CE3 that will run the compact framework. The others will not.
I get it.
So, for example, the handheld 2000 will not run the compact framework. And Microsoft has been pretty adamant that they don't intend to change that anytime soon.
Okay.
And
what about for the mobile internet toolkit stuff? What devices?
For the ASP.NET Mobile Designer, that's the great thing, because you get a much broader reach there. And when Tim was asking me about the whole debate between a rich client and web apps on the mobile field, the great thing about ASP.NET Mobile Designer is that you get many more devices there. And you can use even Palm devices, BlackBerry devices, all the CE devices, smartphones, standard WAP phones, WML phones. So a lot of devices support this. And in fact, if you look at the range of devices that were supported by the time this thing RTM'd earlier this year, it corresponded to 80% of the world market for all mobile devices out there. And Microsoft has been posting new device updates that you can just install on your ASP.NET server that gives you a much broader range. So I think we should actually have this link up with the show, because this is where people can get device updates.
That's just an update to your machine config, right?
Exactly. It just adds stuff to your machine config. It's a whole catalog of features that says this device supports color or not, or supports WML or CHTML or DHTML,
right,
and graphics or no, and the whole slew of things that
the
might be in there or not.
Last time I looked, it was about, 200 devices that it supported?
Oh, it's actually much more than that now.
Huh.
Wow.
Great.
So you mentioned BlackBerries. I mean, are we going to be able to do something with really small devices like that in the future?
Well, the thing with the BlackBerry is that it's very, very thin. You don't have a lot of stuff inside of the operating system in there. And sadly, the thing with the BlackBerry is also a very, very closed operating system. They are not opening stuff up like Microsoft does on Windows CE. So that's why it's much more limiting in terms of building applications. We do build applications with BlackBerry here, but it's always going to hit a .NET backend.
Right. I have a friend that calls them crackberries because he says they're so addictive. He just can't deal without his BlackBerry.
Well, the big thing about the BlackBerries is they have always-on connectivity. And right now, they're the only devices that have that. But as soon as you see other devices that have always-on connectivity, you're going to see the demand for BlackBerries drop considerably.
Right. I totally agree.
Well, I've said before on other shows that I think this is a new world of opportunity for developers to go ahead and learn about mobile development right now. I think that's going to assure them the ability to make money in the future.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Absolutely.
That is exactly why we created .blocks, and we're just having fun with all these technologies, so that's why we're there.
Nick, any final thoughts before we say goodnight? It's been a long show.
Of course, and I'll give a break to everybody out there. The first thing is, whenever you design applications, try to remember that even though the Compact Framework and the ASP.NET Mobile Designer do reuse the same programming model as the desktop and the server, the user experience is not the same for those people. So don't design your applications in the same way. Take into consideration that they're going to be, as we said, standing up and just popping it out of their pockets and quickly inputting something or looking up something and then shutting down the machine.
Okay.
So the user experience is not the same. Remember this when you design your applications.
Great.
Number two, pick the right device for the right job.
Obviously.
Don't give an iPad to a construction worker, and don't give a bulky ruggedized device to a sales rep who's going to walk around in a suit.
We'll put a link to that company you mentioned that makes the ruggedized devices.
Oh, there's a lot of companies like Symbol Technologies and Intermec that are leaders in this. And, yeah, I'll give you links for those.
Great.
In the end, just have fun with it. Mobility is great. It's finally there. It's reachable. It makes good business sense. And I know we have a lot of fun with it, so I hope other developers out there will.
Well, .NET is certainly fun to use and fun to develop in, and this is just another way to use your talents to save people time and money, and that's what it's all about, ladies and gentlemen.
Exactly.
So on behalf of myself and Mark and the entire VBNet community and the .NET community at large, we don't want to leave out our C# brethren, but we all speak VB here, let's face it. I'd like to thank you for being on .NET Rocks. And
it's been great to be on the show.
Come back again, won't you?
Of course.
All right.
Definitely.
Keep on rocking, buddy.
Thanks a lot, guys.
Take care, Nick.
Bye.
Good night.
Boy, life is hard.